You're watching the Policy Times afternoon show, Unleashing India Web Summit Series. The show is being chaired by our own respected Dr. P. Shekhar, who is the chairman of Global Smart Cities Panel, author of more than 80 books on different topics of connected with nation building and national development. And this is also one of the areas that he has deep interest, apart from the other, strategic development areas that he works. Now, just to give a small background, and then I also want to welcome our experts who are joining us. But before introducing our experts, I want to introduce the topic that we are discussing today. The topic is of paramount importance for one reason. Any nation which wants to be the superpower or most advanced nation of the world, the energy security or energy policy is of paramount importance for different countries. So just to give a background, if you see the world's superpowers like United States, European Union nations, whether it is United Kingdom or France, or for that matter, Israel, who are the shrewd power of the world economy, world society, you will see that these countries make energy policy 50 years ahead or 50 to 100 years ahead, so that they secure their energy paradigm at least for next 100 years, next 50 years. And then they can wage war, they can destroy a nation, they can rebuild nations also, depending on their energy interest and energy need. This is a global phenomena. There is no secret and hide in this thing. The same thing also started when China started becoming one of the influential powers of the society of this modern world. It also made immense changes in its foreign policy in terms of securing its energy needs. And if you see last 5 to 10 years, the cumulative investment by China in Middle East is more than America, Europe, or any part of the world. Coming back to India. Now, India is somewhere in the line, has the potential to be the superpower of the world since last 70 years. And next 70 years, maybe we'll keep discussing about where India will lead to and all the potential it has. No doubt it has all. Now, it has 1.3 billion population. Hence, it also needs an immense, it has a vibrant industry. The biggest sector that consumes energy is the industry. And also the countries which are able to provide low cost energy to its industry are also very successful in drawing foreign investment, or also generating massive amount of foreign industrialization. Now, if India really has to incorporate industrialization the way China did and other countries, I was just doing a research, China's manufacturing sector has expanded during the COVID more than last 10 years record. So that I was just reading that. So if India has to really go into full-fledged industrialization, we need to reduce the energy cost. COVID-19 has made tremendous impact on the energy sector also. So our two experts that we have today, Mr. Ram Narayanan, who is a global expert on energy, chemicals, and natural resources business, and Dr. Samir Joshi, who is also an expert environmental specialist and works on many areas, including plastics and other natural resources, and also a Guinness record holder. I will have a couple of questions just to throw before I hand over to Dr. Shekhar. What is the level of impact? How has the COVID impacted the energy sector? How long do we see that this impact going to last, and when can we expect that this sector will recover? How will this actually, the COVID-19, change the shape of corporate strategy in the energy sector? We have one of the, expert from one of the largest petrochemical business of the country and also of the region to share views. The second is supply chain. The post-COVID, digitalization is going to impact a lot. How is the digitalization going to impact the supply chain of the energy sector? Now, what kind of natural resources management strategy countries like India needs to adopt, not only to secure its next 50 years energy needs, but also to look for the future options? With this, I want to hand over to Dr. Shekhar to kindly take over the session.
Thank you. Akram. Now we are going places with this events. This is for national reincarnation is the keyword, and post-COVID devastation is the subsidy word. Now, when we combined these two words some 4 months back, it was like, what do we do? Because there is feeling of helplessness, there is a feeling of despair, and people were going here and there. Every day there is a news item saying that how many more people died, how many more people got infected, and the economy of not India, because previously we had the way of beating the Indian government or Indian systems and all. It is the whole world which has gone down. And for that, we started selecting all the key sectors and trying to get experts to say how each sector will contribute to the growth of the country, how each sector will strategize itself to can get the economy. That's why we change the growth to word reincarnation, because growth is when things are growing. Reincarnating is something where it has gone down, it has to be rebrought. It has to come itself alive in a different format. Now, today's topic is having its own very big importance, because, nature gives land and water, okay, nothing else, okay, whereas everything else is made by human beings. Now, when we say land and water, there are so many things which are built in, and that so many things is what is mainly covered, which gives, of course, energy as an important parameter, which Akram talked, and many other parameters. Okay, so what I will do is I will take few minutes and then run through a small presentation. Okay, today's topic is how new and natural resources to strategize for national reincarnation. Natural resources are of various grades, as can be seen even in the screen. It is right from a small vegetation to petrochemicals on the other extreme, to so many minerals, and wherever one more expert is coming in terms of how energy can come from the waste, how wasteful things should not happen, how plastic which are invented and developed for the whole good of humanity has become one of the points of despair for the humanity, and how still plastic is plastic, it is useful, how it can be done. That is our second expert will talk, Dr. Samir. So it's one of the key slides which I always like to tell, that we Indians, because many times highly despair statements are made that we don't have land, we don't have water, we don't have this, we don't have that. Everything we have got. As you know, we use only 0.4% of our land. We are almost challenge-wise 206 countries put together. And we do have land and plus water, plus, land, the area which has got EEZ above water is as much as India's land area. And we have our own problems, but we have our own opportunities. The series which we are holding is because of post-COVID. Otherwise, the whole series would have been on a very different platform and very different mindset. COVID is something which has destroyed, is a very small word in terms of what it has done. And from all angles, from every aspect of economy, every aspect of transportation, every aspect of tourism, every aspect of livelihood, every aspect of education, even though people feel that, oh, our medical and other things are growing, they are all suffering. They are all suffering in a different way. But numbers define. In my own opinion, COVID is just a exaggerated imagination of something which is negative. Because even a day like today, it says that 60,000 people got affected, but 500 people died. Today in India, on any account, even on a normal day, 27,000 people die, and 75,000 people are born. So 600 people dying of any particular cause is not something which should have caused such a huge this thing. But yes, there are reasons. Hospitals are getting filled in some particular areas. Please let us also know that not all areas, all hospitals are booked. I want to go to a particular hospital, that particular hospital is locked with too many patients. So there are challenges, there are ways to take care, there are ways to tell what we are saying, not to create the type of fear. Now let me go direct to, what is this when we mean by new and natural resources. Now, for environment to be properly taken care, the natural resources have to be, maintained, progressed, and also used properly. That is where our two experts come in picture. In another few minutes time, I will introduce them. So here they should be used for a sustainable basis. Now, when I've said that land and water are only two, that means what does happen to our eatables? Eating is coming from the land, and it is matured by water. Okay, same way whether it is food and medicine, or whether it is recreation, or whether it is gem and jewelry also come from the land, whether it is any other thing, ceramics, everything comes from between these two. Now, our experts will talk more of the reconditioned things which are like plastics to petrochemicals and all, which are refined natural resources, and how they should be planned, how they should be used, how some of these can give rise to energy, how some of these can give rise to renewable energy, and how it has to be used for the good of the people, and how by overusing it, we are not only creating a dark future for all of us, also creating a huge economic loss for the country. For a short-term gain, a long-term loss is being created. So that also we will address, and because there are two speakers, they also have presentation, so I will not go into full detail. I'll directly go to the introduction of, while doing this, I will also spend half a minute on secured governance. Secured governance is a system by which there will be self-sustained economy. Now, when land and water is there, plastics are there, petrochemicals are there, how do we get, everything needs money. Secured governance provides a type of funding which is required, because this is for a self-sustained economy. So when it is self-sustained economy, one is sustained economy, which means it will be long-lasting. Self-sustained economy, even the fund will come from the system. How the fund will come? Because every system provides valuation. The valuation gives a fund. The fund is tapped into the system so that value itself comes, so that it becomes a nice cycling system. That's why here what we say is minimal government investment and maximum this thing. This is done through smart cities, mini hubs, nano hubs. And nano hub means, even a billboard is a nano hub. Okay, very small plants is a nano hub. So they all are part of the way forward, because now as COVID is going, a huge funds will be required. So that will be addressed in a very proper way. Now we have two experts today. I will have Dr. Samir Joshi as the first speaker. Samir Joshi is an expert in environment. He has got Guinness Book of World Record for many things which he has done in plastics, and he's into so many committees, including Government of India's planning think tanks. He works, and he is doing immense work in various things. He is from Pune, and so he is more of a Pune-based entrepreneur. He's an entrepreneur, plus he is somebody who is seeing how plastics can be. He's also on the world body to see how plastic can play a more positive role than the negative role which is playing today. And he has got many more things other than the word plastics. So he has got some small video also to be presented. He wants to start with the video, which he will explain to us what he's wanting to present the video. Then he has got a presentation. Then after that, Ram Narayan will come. I will introduce him at the time. And then again, Samir Joshi will come. Then Ram Narayan, then we conclude. So Dr. Samir Joshi.
Thank you, sir. Before I begin, can I request Akram to please show the video?
Yeah, please.
Nature. Others call me Mother Nature. I've been here for over 4.5 billion years, 22,500 times longer than you. I don't really need people, but people need me. Yes, your future depends on me. When I thrive, you thrive. When I falter, you falter, or worse. But I've been here for eons. I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you. My oceans, my soil, my flowing streams, my forests, they all can take you or leave you. How you choose to live each day, whether you regard or disregard me, doesn't really matter to me. One way or the other. Your actions will determine your fate, not mine. I am nature. I will go on. I am prepared to evolve. Are you?
Thank you. I would like to start the share screen presentation.
Yeah, sure.
See, thank you for that film, playing of that film. You know, it reminds us that how small we are in the whole system, how we are just you know, like a grain of sand in the whole thing. My learned friends today will be talking about energy and natural resources. I'm going to talk about one such resource, polymer, who has been a part of our life some way or the other. You know, since the evolution of the world billions of years ago, elements like carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen were moving around in this world, and they came together one day to form what is known as a polymer. And that polymer is the basis even of the human being. And polymer encompasses plastics, rubbers, paints, and then what is used and abused most is plastics. I'm going to begin with how plastics have been playing a part of our life and how things are evolving. To again go back to Dr. Shekhar's slide, I like that very much. To preserve and protect the environment, primary resource consumption, minimizing waste, and environment protection. That are all the mantras, the vision, and the mission of anybody and all the companies who care for this world. This gentleman, whom we all know, had said very well, the environment is everything that isn't me. This is how people have looked at environment and used and abused it. 100 tons per lifetime of garbage is generated by US citizen in his lifetime. What is that? Isn't it a burden on this earth? Life was much simpler than during olden times. We used to go to the market and get all the foods and the masalas which from the person by taking it according to our need. Then this came when we started packing it, leading to garbage. The next wave was this packaging and then littering. Collins Dictionary has named single use as the word of 2018, which reflects the increasing global awareness of environmental issues of plastics and other things. The products that are often made of plastics and how to be made to use just once, only to be thrown away, rendering them unsustainable and harmful. You know, we have always evolved. We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. These times have been challenging, and this has opened up our eyes like never before. Now, environment economy, and me. How do we all face these challenges? It's in this world of uncertainties, sustainability, single-use plastics, confusion, unsure. What is the way ahead? It's time to think outside the trash. Like they say, you think outside the box. No, we have to think outside the trash. That is the need of today. Plastics in the new normal. Oil and chemical markets have been severely impacted by the pandemic and caused a spike in demand for some products. While there can be few winners in the fight against the pandemic, polymers in particular have proven their resiliency, worth, and value in confronting the infection. This has led to a rising demand in healthcare products. But environment and sustainability in the short term did lose its focus, but all are back to that. What is when we talk of sustainability, environment, and when plastics, how is plastics recycling revolved and defined? The plastic products must be made with a type of plastic that is collected for recycling and has a market value and is supported by legislative mandate program. The product must be stored and aggregated in defined stream for recycling. The product can be processed and reclaimed with commercial recycling, and the recycled plastics becomes a raw material to be used in the production of new products. This is how recycling is being now defined in the new era. Look at this, the post-consumer plastic waste bottles, PET bottle to bottle recycling, PET bottle to sheet recycling, PET bottle to preform recycling. We are talking of food grade applications which are already there in the Western worlds. India, it will begin in a few years from now. What is the opportunity of recycled plastics? It is growing, and with global commitments and regulations and technology, these plastics which have been recycled will compete with the virgin in the years to come. What is that we need to do now? New mantras, seeing things in a different perspective. We consume, then we throw the plastics, but it needs to be segregated, collected, transported, processed. If recycled, then again transported for making recycled products, or if not recyclable, to be used in making roads or in cement kilns. These are some of the products which are made from multi-layered plastics. The plastics which are referred, like the best example is wafer packets, where we have a plastic as well as a metallic layer. We did something very small in a big way. We collected 200,000 1-liter discarded plastic bottles and made the world's largest t-shirt from 100% plastic bottles. This was almost 100 meters in length and 70 meters wide. And post that, this big t-shirt was cut into 10,000 small t-shirts and distributed to underprivileged. 6 plastic 1-liter bottles, if not littered, can clothe a child. When we talk of waste and the plastics which are banned, there is a very nice example of a young entrepreneur from Pune who collected 80,000 kgs of discarded plastic flex banner and along with kids stitched them into plastic bags, that is school bags made from discarded flex banner. This was a great initiative. We need to redefine plastics in the new world, redesigning it and repositioning it. Then living amazingly less with a lot less things and lot less what we have learned in the present times. Future of plastics, nomad-made living in micro houses. We have learned to live with meager things And this pandemic has got us to think about our basics. In packaging, in 2018, the American Chemistry Council announced two ambitious goals to crystallize US plastics commitment by the reason to recycle or recover all plastic packaging in the United States, and by using 100% recyclable plastics by 2040. This goal is heavy, but everyone is showing a commitment, and India has started in the same way. Look at this. This is not a plastic cup, but made from a compostable 100% biodegradable cup material. We are talking of reusable, recyclable, and compostable packaging 100% by 2025. Dow in India is a company which has taken an initiative and made an all polyethylene laminate packaging solution, which were earlier multi-layer in the same layer so that it can be recycled properly. With the rising waste, is it a burden or an opportunity? Lot of free cost material is available and the country is literally a gold mine in this. When we talk of plastics, the new generation plastics, compostable, degradable, and plastics which cannot dissolve. The compostable leave no microplastics. The degradable, that is oxo, is not completely dissolved, but this will take time to mature, and each has its own plus points. What to do of discarded plastics? Some entrepreneur has made bricks from this plastic waste to make houses and pavements. Plastics that can be eaten. A scientist in Pune has developed a worm which can eat the plastics. Disposal of plastic waste is a serious concern. Newer technologies are being developed. That is recycling, the conventional method of mechanical recycling, or then the plasma pyrolysis technology, converting it to fuel, or that what not cannot be used, making plastic roads or co-processing in cement kiln, where plastics give calorific value. This is what we are looking in the new world, making sure that all plastic packaging is recovered and its value is captured instead of ending being buried in a landfill somewhere. As we transit to a circular economy, the economy of extract to recycling, from make to repair, from use to rent, from dispose to manufacture, creating 6 million jobs by 2030. What a way of thinking. It all finally comes on to all entrepreneurs, influencers, innovators, NGOs, industries, governments, and experts link through that sustainability grid where each one does his own part. We have made wise not by the recollection of our past, but by the responsibility of our future. What has gone has gone. What the present situation has taught us, it is all for us to define and rethink and rework. Eco-friendly to us is not a statement. It is a belief backed up with a viable action. And as we see through this, the environment and sustainability through a new glass, a new vision, we need to redefine our priorities and rethink our actions and redo our plans. Thank you indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samir. In the second half, of course, we would like you to talk in terms of the actual reincarnation, how this will bring about what steps has to be taken, what steps are being taken, and which are to be consolidated to ensure there is a good national reincarnation, and how this will also play a very effective role. Now we have our second expert, Ram Narayan. He is heading one of the largest companies' strategic and planning division. He had the privilege of even accompanying the Prime Minister on some very important, uh, endeavor to bring lot of FDIs and goodwill and whatever thing for the country's progress. He himself is an expert in his own field, which is more of decarbonization. He uses a very nice word, decarbonization. Now, there are many people who are now writing many things in terms of there was a video which said that how today use carbon dioxide and make energy out of it. That means the negative things become positive. Now, waste to energy is absolutely direct. Now, he's got a lot of great ideas, even though he's an expert in petrochemicals and oil. He knows how this has done its own good, because we just cannot, just because today things are polluting, we cannot simply put all the blames on, oil and petrochemical. Today, whatever we are saying as an advanced world and advanced country, even oil and petrochemicals had a very, very deep role. Only in exploiting them, we exploited ourselves, is what has happened. I know it is just like that, in this world, people just go out of the way. It is something, when something good is there, we do so much that, it becomes bad for us. Just like overeating. Something is very good, you overeat and you die. Same thing has happened in this oil and petrochemical industry. And people like Ram Narayan, they do immense work in terms of now decoupling this and getting the good things back into the system, and not so good things to be made into a good and let it come back. That's why electric vehicles are coming. Now, we are all polluting just because, we wanted good transportation. Transportation means roads means this. So everything became good. Whether we should all be proud that India has got almost 4.7 million kilometers of road, which is second highest in the world. Even though size-wise we are the seventh highest, but still road-wise we are so-and-so. And we build almost largest number of vehicles. And both this put together will naturally pollute the atmosphere. So it is for somebody's comfort we are doing and destroying the economy. Now, Ram Narayan has done immense work. He also is one of those corporate leaders who has very good personal capability. He does a lot of sporting, he does hiking, he does so many things. Every day where he will be, he doesn't know. So even during non-COVID times, he used to work in Himalayas or doing hiking, and but same time, because he cannot lose the the job which he is very passionate about. So, Mr. Ram Narayan, yes, you can probably start about your personal thing maybe for a few minutes, and then decarbonization, your pet topic.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shekhar. First of all, can you hear me and can you see
we
my
all
slide?
we can
Yeah.
hear.
Can you see my slide also?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Shekhar. And thank you, Dr. Shekhar. Thank you, Policy Times, Mr. Akram, for inviting me, as well as for publishing my article. Well, Dr. Shekhar has introduced me pretty well. So, in fact, I didn't know some facets of my introduction, which is done pretty well. That how I been working in different fields, and so that it benefits the country. So just to add a few points, in my career of the last 22, 23 years, I've also had the opportunity of working in China, which at the early part of my career, which was a great eye-opener for me. Then as a part of my work, I worked in the metals and mining sector, which took me across the world. The challenges faced by the mining sector was something, especially during the commodities boom in the 2000s, that was really a great experience for me. And India was one of the leading countries in that. And thirdly, of course, for the last few years, I've been working in the chemicals business, similar kind of business, but it's its own set of challenges. So that's so I would just thought I'll just put in a few slides my thoughts on decarbonization. As you know, Dr. Shekhar in his opening remarks said pretty well that how the world has given us the resources, the earth has given us the resources. It is up to we people to use it pretty well. And Dr. Joshi and is, I think, a very good video which he showed. I liked it pretty much. And then he said how we have abused it and how we should stop the abuse and move back to the ground reality. That's a message which I got from his talk as well as from the video. So on a similar topic, I just want to talk on decarbonization. Now, decarbonization, what I say is like, there is so much of hue and cry about pollution from vehicles, from oil, from coal and all. I mean, finally, it is a choice we humankind has made so as to develop ourselves. So can we stop the development? I feel that we cannot. So my talk is dependent upon how the world is moving towards decarbonization. What are different trends that we see in decarbonization? And what are the other the initiatives that we can take to in this particular field so that we achieve twofold objectives. One is, of course, make the world a cleaner and a safer place to live in for our generation, for the future generations also, and how to make living very, very sustainable. Dr. Joshi showed a very nice grid on sustainability. In fact, I also have a similar kind of slide. And also, development cannot stop. Economic development is a key for everybody. It cannot stop. So that is the key gist of my presentation. So therefore, my major basic idea is we can decarbonize, but it cannot be a charity. It has to have a financially viable model. Plastic waste recently, or about a year back, many initiatives were taken, and there is an organization called Alliance on Plastic Waste, which was formed based out of Singapore to structure all these kind of projects. So many similar kind of developments happen in the oil and gas field also, where I come from. So I just thought I'll share a few thoughts which is happening across the world, and as well as a few recommendations very specific to India. So very key development has happened in the oil and gas space as well as the petrochemical space where I come from. British Petroleum, the iconic British company. For the last 10 years, they're a little bit more American, but the British company, they announced that they want to become net carbon zero by 2050. That's fair enough. Paris climate, Paris Accord and all that they've been, people have talked about that. But they did some, in their quarter 2 results, they made some very interesting announcements. Petrochemical business, which is a downstream of oil and gas, and from which they did a good part of their revenues from, and they were leaders in that. They sold off the business to another company. That is something which was a very surprising thing. And they also said in the next about 7 to 8 years, they'll reduce the oil and gas output from all the fields across the world by 40%. The bread and butter business is oil and gas, reduction by 40%, surprising. And third interesting part was they said in the future, they'll be focusing more on the renewables business, which mainly includes renewable energy and allied technologies like carbon capture and all. So essentially, one of the world's leading companies and looked up upon companies has completely ripped apart its business model and moving towards a completely different path, which is focused on net zero carbon and which is in accord with the global demands. Now, in the oil and gas business, it's not only BP. Shell, another iconic company, has made similar kind of announcements. And in the last few months, we also seen a number of other announcements, like China. Of all the countries, China during the UN convention about a few weeks back, they said they're going to become net carbon zero by 2060. It'll be pretty interesting to see how they're going to do that, especially given the fact they're the world's largest emitter of carbon dioxide. And there's been a lot of backlash over fossil fuels financing. Samsung, the big Korean company, has been facing a lot of backlash from its investors because of its financing for the coal trade, and especially all the private equities, ETFs, and all. Now they put a lot of thrust on climate change. So therefore, they mainly fund the projects related to climate change, and many of them have pulled out of investing in fossil fuels. And the interesting part is, most of the European fossil oil and gas companies are facing a lot of heat from the investors to move towards net carbon zero. But the iconic US companies like Exxon and Chevron, they have not been so much into making these kind of announcements. So probably they're doing some lip service. So an interesting development has happened over the last 2 to 3 months. Exxon, the iconic US company, it has moved out of Dow Jones top 100 or 150. Because one is, of course, the oil prices crashed because property has crashed. And instead of ExxonMobil, a company called Investra, I'm sorry, probably getting the name wrong, which is focused mainly on wind and solar energy, has entered the Dow Jones 100. So that means an oil and gas company has moved out of the top index, and the company which is focused on renewables has moved into that. So that's a kind of change that is happening across the world. So therefore, the investors, they want decarbonization, and all the companies are forced to take heed of decarbonization. It's become a trend across the world. Why the need for decarbonization? See, we've seen over the last few years a number of catastrophic events. The California bushfires recently in US. Then last year, we had the Australia bushfires. Then, of course, the snow caps across the Arctic are melting. And in fact, right now, there are some shipping routes which are going across the Arctic, which I could never think of when I studied geography during in my school during the 80s and early 90s. and raising water levels. In fact, strangely and surprisingly, I was reading the climate action plan of the US presidential candidate Joe Biden. And then he has got a complete climate action plan where he says if because of rising water levels, it's a big security threat to USA. And snow caps melting is also a big security threat to USA. The reason being, once snow caps melt in the Arctic, the Russians and Chinese will go there, start their mining activities and capture a particular place, which will become a security threat to the US. So that's a kind of threat that climate change is posing across the world. In fact, if you look at the World Economic Forum survey, 2018 among the top five threats were, apart from extremism and climate action, data fraud and data theft and cyber attacks were among the top five. In 2020, that has moved, and mainly if you look at the last part, which is 2020, everything is really linked to climate change: extreme weather, climate action failure, natural disasters, biodiversity loss, and human-made economic damage. So therefore, the world is taking cognizance of the fact that climate change, our environment, is the biggest threat and biggest risk that we need to address for the future. So this is in tune with what decarbonization moves that have been taken by the oil and gas now. Now, I just wanted to say, like, why apart from the political pressure and all, what has happened in the last few months actually? Now, what has happened is, like, different stakeholders have got aligned on climate change, especially NGOs and the corporate firms. In the past, there was a lot of acerbity between the NGOs and the firms. Like, NGOs will say, like, these guys are polluting, and oil and gas companies will say, like, we are creating jobs, we are making money for all the people. But right now, in fact, all these people have sort of come to a common platform. In fact, about 2 months back, there was an online forum which was based out of UK, in which representative from Shell, BP, and Greenpeace, they came together. They talked a common language of climate change. It's a refreshing change that all these guys are coming and talking about climate change. So, if I look at what are the incentives for all, for the firms, it is better market valuations, maybe probably better profits in the future. For the NGOs especially, like, they get better funding and their voice is being heard by all the people. And thirdly, for the common public, they say, okay, cleaner skies, cleaner environment is good for us. So therefore, this has been alignment to all the different stakeholders towards a common goal, which has really helped the boost towards sustainability as well as decarbonization initiatives. Now, like as I said before, all these companies which are going in for decarbonization and climate change initiatives, they feel they get better stock market valuations. I mean, BP, like, they about 2 weeks back, they had their investors meet where they completely laid out the plans for how they are going to move towards zero carbon initiatives. Stock market still has not given them the valuation, but still then, I mean, it's too early days. I'm sure they'll get the valuation in the future. So I think that's one of the major incentives. And nowadays, in fact, there's a lot of focus on ESG investing, which is environmental investments. There's a lot of focus on green investing. In fact, as per a JP Morgan report, the total investment that is there as of today, when I say today, by the end of 2019, was close to $45 trillion on socially acceptable initiatives, which includes environment initiatives. And it is also estimated by Financial Times, which says that over the last 2 years, investments in green initiatives have given better returns as compared to normal initiatives. So therefore, there is a whole lot of there's a whole thrust in terms of a financial model behind all these initiatives. And there's also an ethical issue also. Like today, investments in a coal plant, if investors putting money in coal plants looked down upon, in fact, investors will raise objection to it. So therefore, a lot of ethical issues are coming up also. So therefore, the major message from what I'm giving is, like, there's an alignment of all the different sets of people across the society. There's a good financial valuation towards green initiatives, and which is combined with a basic ethical issue. So therefore, there's a big boost towards decarbonization and the sustainability initiatives across the world. I spoke about green bond investments. I won't spend much time on this given the constraint on time. As I told you, green bond investments increased by 51% across the world in 2019 and 2018. And that's quite a steep jump. And the key areas of investments have been alternate energy, green buildings, and sustainability in transportation. So therefore, these are the areas which people are investing in. That's something which is very relevant for our country also. So therefore, just as I said, as Dr. Joshua also showed a sustainability grid. So therefore, developing a good sustainable ecosystem is a key for driving all initiatives. So therefore, the ecosystem which we should be moving towards to is green energy sources, which comprise of something like wind energy, solar energy, and biofuels, green fuels, and green initiatives like green buildings and then electric vehicles and all. And of course, the ecosystem has to be supported by financial support. So therefore, we see a lot of money coming ESG investing, supported by carbon audits, tax breaks, and green premium. So this is our sort of sustainable ecosystem that needs to be built. The world should move towards to drive all this decarbonization initiatives. So therefore, the basic message is, if you for all this kind of initiatives to work, we should have one is of course a vision and have a viable financial model to make this work. Just a brief bit about global carbon emissions. Global carbon emissions, as I told you, like China is the leader, followed by USA, and then India is number 3. Even though India is far away from China. Surprisingly, not surprisingly, actually, thanks to this COVID thing, so therefore the carbon dioxide emissions in the first 6 months of 2020 has actually gone down, mainly because of the lockdowns and all. But anyway, this is not something which we should be happy about. But we should be looking forward to how do we sustain these initiatives once we go back to full economy. So again, just to repeat, some of the biggest businesses that the CO2 emitters are first is of course power industry, which is a hub, lifeline of all the different economic activities, industries, and surface transport. So therefore, these are the three major carbon dioxide emitters. So therefore, all the focus of the major investors and initiatives are focused on these 3 different sectors to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. Now, India is, as I showed before, is the world's third largest emitter of carbon dioxide. So does it mean that we should completely cover all the carbon dioxide emitting activities? I mean, let's look at what are India's major concerns as of today. India is still a developing country. We still need to pull out a lot of people from poverty. We still need to develop more. GDP, in fact, was supposed to raise to 10 to 11% so as to achieve the desired goals. Poverty, as I told, is still a major issue. Geopolitical concerns. India has got a lot of geopolitical concern because of where it's situated, where it's located, and the global dynamism. So therefore, these are the concerns which India should address. But at second hand, because we have different issues in terms of pollution, poor air quality in majority of the cities, and quality of life is still a big concern. So India needs to balance these two concerns and then chart a path forward. So therefore, one is of course India needs to develop economic, it needs to take care of economic development also. But the other side, it has to take care of the environmental concern which is faced with. So as to move forward and then have a sustainable development. So I just thought I'll just put on a few initiatives which India can look at. I mean, this is not a comprehensive list of all the initiatives, but something which is linked to decarbonization as well as looking at India's economic development. I think I'll just skip the slide just to show that in the majority in the world as well as China as well as India, fossil fuels still account for a good part of the energy basket. The only point which I want to highlight is India has done pretty well in terms of renewables so far. If you look at it, India's renewables in the energy basket is 23%, as compared to China, which is probably at 9 to 10%, and globally we're around 5 to 6%. So therefore, India has taken a lot of initiatives on this, something which can be developed upon for a future initiative. Let's skip the slide. Maybe I'll take it at the end. So I spoke about a viable financial model for any successes. India has had successes. I mean, let's look at the solar energy success story in India. So India has had a steep curve in terms of solar energy development. That's mainly because of the government support. In 2010 or 2011, the Indian government took upon itself to develop solar energy as one of the major sources of energy. Different support was given. One was accelerated depreciation for solar parks. Second thing was import duty was reduced. Third, and summer tax breaks were given. So therefore, the Indian solar energy business really grew up, as we can see in the chart, in a pretty quick manner. So much so that India is the third or the fourth largest producer of solar energy in the world. And Indian solar power tariffs, I think the lowest was seen as something like rupees 2.44, which is probably one of the lowest in the world. So therefore, it's been a major success in India. So therefore, the point which has been driving it earlier, that any initiative needs to have a viable financial model. India has seen that already in terms of solar energy. So I would say that the same kind of initiatives need to be taken across the different other initiatives. which I propose out here. Electric vehicles is a great opportunity for India. Now because Tesla wants to move some part out of China, they made some announcements. So and they are probably looking at Bangalore. That's a great initiative for great interest for India. India, we should, as we all know, India has got a very big manufacturing base for vehicles, especially cars. In the last 20-25 years, all the global majors have got that manufacturing base in India. So this can be leveraged. India has got a technical strength in terms of skilled manpower. So that's something which can be leveraged. And of course, there are two major initiatives that needs to be taken by the government of India or on the private sector also. One is probably we need support with some tax breaks for the initial few years so as to let this industry develop, because there is always going to be some cost pressures. It might not be viable financial model initially. So we need to help out on that. One of the major initiatives that needs to be taken is in charging infrastructure. I'm sorry about the spelling mistake out here. Charging station infrastructure needs to be developed across India. I mean, India has got a wide retail network. Is there anything that the government and private sector can come together to support this initiative so as to make electric vehicles into a big ecosystem into India? Now, electrical vehicle ecosystem can address both the issues which India is facing. It can reduce pollution certainly. And second thing is it can leverage India's manufacturing base and create jobs out here. I mean, we are killing two birds with one stone. So there's a great initiative which India should lap it up in here right now. The second ecosystem which I propose is something which is a part of my business which I work in. So therefore, like India has got a big refinery base. Now, what is happening in China is now with electric vehicles coming in and there are a lot of initiatives of decarbonization, the fuels consumption will go down in the future. So China is moving towards integrated refinery and chemical businesses. So therefore, where more of chemicals will be produced rather than fuels, that is in terms of gasoline and diesel. So that means the existing refinery base will be there. B, new bigger refineries can be built in China. And C, like, they will be producing more of chemicals which will be used in day-to-day life rather than fuels which are polluting. So therefore, like just to give some numbers, in a normal refinery, all the chemicals consumption is around 15%. But in China, with the new plant that's coming, it's around 50% plus. That means more of chemicals is being produced and less of fuels is being produced. Why is it a huge opportunity for India? Because India is still a big importer of chemicals. And not surprisingly, much of these chemicals come from China. So therefore, like, my idea is like, we have a big refinery base in India. Okay, we can build green chemical zone across the refinery base where we can set up chemicals manufacturing. So in the process, we can leverage a refinery base of India. We produce more chemicals in India, and in the process create jobs and increase the GDP of India. So therefore, the advantages would be like, we can de-risk our import dependence as well as promote Atmanirbhar, which is being promoted by the government. So there's another initiative which I propose as a part of decarbonization initiatives. And of course, feedstock has to be greener. So therefore, if the feedstock is more greener, we'll have lesser pollution and more decarbonization. Now, in India, in fact, China also uses more of coal. Now, in the last few months, thanks to what has happened to COVID, LNG, that is liquid natural gas prices have dropped. LNG is a much more cleaner fuel to burn and causes less pollution. So, okay, so what has been up in the last 2 to 3 months is because of lower price of LNG, more and more of gas power stations in India have become operational, which are sort of stressed before. Now, it can always be argued that, LNG prices can move up again, and will this LNG business be as viable as it was in the last 2 to 3 months? The answer is yes and no. What is happening globally, especially in China is also trying to do this, is they're trying to club LNG as along with solar parks, so that, it's much more like a hybrid car engine. So therefore, like, they have the best of both. That's a model which they're trying to do. And one of the biggest problems in India has been, the pricing has been sort of constrained because of a government formula. So therefore, the government has taken some initiatives in free market pricing. So therefore, which will certainly boost domestic production. And the government is also trying to work on some of the stressed assets. There's some of the gas power stations which are not operational right now. I think the last count, something like 70% of the Indian gas stations were not operational. So therefore, one of the initiatives can be promotion of LNG as a fuel, and maybe clubbed as a renewable along with solar parks can help. My last point, which is here, is hydrogen as a fuel is touted as the next green fuel for transport across the world. Now, hydrogen can be produced either through the normal route through coal and this process. And second thing is the green process, which is the electrolysis process, they call it. Now, hydrogen produced through hydrogen when it burns doesn't produce carbon dioxide, it produces only heat and steam. So therefore, it's a green fuel. But still, like, hydrogen, if you look at the chart up below, this is a representative chart. So therefore, it's still there are a lot of issues cause the production of hydrogen. So therefore, that's something which needs to be addressed through tax internal tax breaks. And the effort should be to move more towards green hydrogen, which is actually using green sources like solar energy and wind energy to burn water and then make hydrogen rather than the normal route through coal right now. This is started the next green fuel. A lot of initiatives have been taken. In fact, a lot of experiments have been done to make aircraft run on hydrogen. And yesterday I saw an article saying that CSIR has done the first test run of hydrogen powered cars in India. So this is another great initiative which can again create jobs as well as address the decarbonization. So that's it from these are few initiatives which I propose, which I propose from my side. And finally, just to summarize, industries need to be sort of incentivized to adopt sustainability. A lot of initiatives have been taken, probably through tax breaks, carbon credits, and carbon tax, so as to make it a financially viable model. Industry can be incentivized more to decarbonize their activities. That's it from my side. And I think just on the lighter side, maybe work from home can help us more in decarbonization. But anyway, that's it from my side, Dr. Shekhar. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. You have given 3 sessions presentation in one. So thank you, a lot of information. And of course, with the other information provided by Dr. Samir, I would like Samir to come back for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because, the public works by what we call as a bandwagon,
Yeah.
mobs theory. Now, plastics and other things which are all good has gone into that bandwagon theory. So everybody wants, everything has to be in, water should be in plastic, we should be in plastics, everything should be. And so things are really something which is really, really good. In fact, in terms of development, it is really good. And just for information, the next to plastic is the information technology, where the type of way things are being dumped at a freest and cheapest cost. This is also going to be the next plastics of the world, which is going to be a big. So plastic has to be a trendsetter to see that how it will be used for the benefit. Today, we should not see that there should be no plastics, which will again make us go back 40 years. Okay. So just because something is good, which is being used, abused, and overused, we cannot say that is bad for us. Same thing with respect to many other, just like petrochemical. We can't say maybe we should use a proper use of the petrochemical. So the same, vehicle, if it need not emit carbon dioxide, if it need not emit poisonous gases, it is good. That's what indirectly is being made by the electric vehicles. Not in electric vehicles, we are totally rid of anything. So same way, I would like Samirji to say how, post-COVID means we are considering post-COVID right from March. We are not saying COVID is going to end in some particular day. Vaccine is created, COVID is ended. We believe that COVID is part of life. So how is it that, how will the now with the economy and the people and our system will start reincarnating, and what will be the way these type of thing which are good, but they have been totally abused? In what way the changes can be brought about? What way things are being brought about? What would be your expert suggestion on the way things should go forward? Dr. Samir.
Thank you, Dr. Shekhar. COVID, there is one more thing, waste has increased. That's what is a common point. Of course, the medical waste has increased, but I would just like to point out, I'm not talking of that waste, medical waste. The waste industry is going to be by 2024, a $15 billion industry in India. So waste as a resource, this is going to come up in a very big way. And by 2030, the world waste industry is going to be $5 trillion. This is what is happening. The opportunities for, recycling is just part of the whole value chain. But the opportunities in this industry are going up and up and up. And I had the pleasure of being associated with the Government of India committee appointed by Niti Aayog, which is now formulating is what is called as we were calling it a national recycling policy. But the think tanks have seen it in a different way. they see it as the natural resource policy, and all the stakeholders are coming to see as a waste as a resource, and how it will give up and throw up a lot of opportunities, as also pointed out by Shri Narayanji. So, this is going to be an growing industry and create value from waste. And when all the stakeholders are coming together, no doubt it will give a good future, more exciting and brilliant than our past. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Shekhar, Dr. Shekhar and Akramji for having me today this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, coming to Ram for the ending conclusion talk. You gave an excellent presentation of, what is, how to make the whole system green. Because you are talking of blue, which is one grade above green to make it self-sustained. Now, with all this coming, from your own point of view, how is it that, yes, you made certain pertinent suggestions in terms of what they should do? What are the way things are being done? And what are the way things are yet to be done? And what are any new suggestions which you feel has to be done to ensure that, the nation's rebuilding, because we have a lot of confidence building has to come, where each sector has to play. We cannot, it is just like putting so many things together. Even if once, like if you have to go to some XYZ, this thing, each step is important. One step not being correct, whole thing will collapse. So each step is important. And that many times we find things are not being accepted. They only think of some one or two things. If that is done, everything is done. It is not like that. So what do you feel in this green energy initiatives and green power initiatives and, all those things? What is being done and what can be done and what should be done toward the last way we could?
Yeah, Dr. Shekhar. I think the first thing that we can do is, if we cannot completely take all, say we had to have zero carbon right now. So therefore, the first thing that countries are doing is from a fuel perspective, like of course, coal is being used. So wherever coal-based industries are there, so therefore, how to adopt some cleaner practices. I think that's something which I think we have started doing it. We can do it. And I still feel that LNG is a great opportunity right now, given the low prices, and also therefore promotion of LNG and promotion and generation of more power through LNG, which has already started happening in India. That's something which is a thing that can be done immediately. We don't need major initiatives on thinking for that. Now, the second thing that can be done as a long-term basis is, as I told you, for vehicular pollution. Now, vehicular pollution, I think one is electric vehicles is still a bit of time away. So that's something which certainly I think is a great opportunity which I talked about. And the second, one thing which I think we can do immediately is how the greener fuels are being promoted. One thing that's something which is close to my heart is how we actually at one stage we can say that optimal usage of vehicles can be done. So therefore, maybe greener fuels for our transportation, industrial transportation, maybe ride sharing for our cities, city transportation, so decongested. And third part is as I say, if at all more of public transport can be used, I think that's something which is not being proposed, that is not being recommended right now because of COVID. That's something which you can do. So I think from a vehicular pollution point of view, I think these are issues that can be done. Fuels, as I spoke about. And third part is something which I always say is industry needs to be incentivized. So therefore, how to strike a right balance between development coming out of COVID as well as a long-term initiatives, probably carbon taxes, carbon tax breaks, that's something which can be looked at right now. So that's something which across the world is being happening right now. That's something which India can look at. But of course, we cannot do everything at the same time. We just need to balance development along with recovery from development along with our environmental concerns. So these are the points that I have right now.
Thank you so much. So we conclude our today's session with a small statement that this natural thing which are there, in trying to maintain nature, we cannot not deprive ourselves of our development, because we are born to, not rule the world, to make a world a bigger and good livable place for all of us, including non-living items. And in that proper use of the natural systems, natural environment, natural gifts, I would say, of the nature has to be taken in properly. and we had excellent presentation by two experts, and we would like to thank and conclude today's session. Thank you. Akram can give the final.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shekhar. Wonderful, in fact, having insights from two real experts from the sector. Yeah, we were experiencing a power cut in the office, and I was immediately thinking that we are doing an energy session, and power cut is still a common phenomena in many parts of the world. So power cut might not be a big issue for domestic power consumption, but it's a huge factor when it comes to running factories, running offices, because that's a huge loss. Because if any company has 20 employees and 20 employees are stuck without work for 1 hour, that means there's a 20-hour loss for the company. That kind of losses companies or nations at the end of the day incurs if there is no proper energy policy, energy security policy for a nation. So I don't want to, because I'm not an expert on this subject. We had real experts talking about this. Viewers, if you like, Policy Times has only just one agenda, that we want to be a developed nation in our lifetime. Whether we don't know we will be able to achieve that or not, but if we give a concerted effort and a focused approach, I think that's very much possible. Singapore, no one thought what Singapore today, 20 or 30 or 50 years down the line. No one thought what China is today. No one thought what Japan is today, 50 years, 20 years down, or 50, 60 years down the line. So nations evolve. It is just a focus and a vision that takes different countries forward. As much as it is true for countries, it is equally true for individuals. So that is our policy. If you like discussions like this, do subscribe to the Policy Times YouTube channel and our Facebook page. Thank you. Keep